Welcome back to the series of Authenticity and Inclusivity. I'm Aries, your host, the ex-banking executive and turned coach. And my guest, Lucie, who is the leadership and emotional intelligence coach and the founder for My Futury. As promised, today we will dive into one of the 9 sub-tier, the avoider, and how that wreck have with your authenticity and inclusivity. But before we dive in, I think we probably should do a quick recap so you remember what you have seen in the last round, in the last session. So very quickly, authenticity is simply being true to yourself, the feeling of feeling spontaneous, while that fourth cell is kind of feeling emptiness, kind of feeling that you're not in alignment. And then we talk about the personality traits using D's, stand for DISC. And the model described the 4 main stars. I mean, some know it as color as the red, the yellow, the green, and the blue. Okay, it's basically just your preference towards people or tasks, the extroversion versus the introversion. And Lucie, you want to jump in and talk a little bit about that 9 sub-tier as a quick summary before we dive into the avoider?
Thank you, Aries, for summing it up and recapping. So the saboteurs are kind of our childhood guardians, or our past guardians that got created in order to help us deal with certain situations. And now they actually, if we use a tool, a hammer, let's say, for everything, even for petting a dog, it's not going to be helpful. So the saboteurs, in a way, are habitual ways that we've learned to react to situations. And if we apply them, ways of thinking, behaving, and thinking, if we apply them to all the situations at a big level, then it's not going to helpful and actually be harmful to our well-being, relationships, performance. And I'm excited that today we are going to pick one of the saboteurs, that is avoider. And there, as you can re-listen and rewatch our previous episodes, there are 9 of them. And the main one is judge. Then judge partners with the avoider, and they can really wreak havoc on our relationships, performance, and well-being. And today we'll go into more details. So I'm excited to explore it, how it messes up with all of us in a way, in different ways.
All right, so let me share a little bit on the avoider, right? So I'm not sure whether you can see this.
Yes.
If I see this, yeah. So we talk about the judge, the master saboteur with all the 9 accomplished saboteur. But today we just only focus on one of them, which is the avoider. We're going by alphabet order, so I thought that's easier. So I'm going to put back to the slides of avoider. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay. Avoider. So the definition for avoider is focusing on the positive and pleasant in a pretty extreme way. In other words, they avoid anything that's difficult, unpleasant tasks, and conflict.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this is a high-level definition. Lucie, want to tell us more about this avoider and how that play with the judge, and then maybe we can see how each of the personality traits come in.
Yeah, what I wanted to mention first is when I mentioned before that they can come as a reaction to past events in a way. So this could be both as a reaction to, let's say, a happy childhood where we didn't learn to actually handle the negative emotions because we weren't exposed to them as much. So we learn to kind of avoid the negative situations because we really don't know how to handle them. And then the other extreme actually could be from kind of violent, rough childhoods where the person learned to be more of the peacemaker to stay safe. So again, avoiding conflict, avoiding unpleasant situations, and focusing on the positive and pleasant ways. So that's kind of the tendency, how the origin of the avoider, how it can happen. And I'm sorry, I know you asked another question and I got distracted. What was
no worry, I'm just thinking about quickly talk
for you?
The traits of an avoider. I think avoiders not only, I think some time back, I did talk quite a lot about this avoider. There was yeah, I host a couple of sessions that deep dive into each of the saboteur. But I think the difference now is we want to bring in this avoider. How is the interaction? Well, what is it, intertwine, or the relationship with our personality traits, and how that come about in misalignment. As the alignment, as in when you are authentic, you are actually aligned to yourself. When you are not aligned, which I think Donna Winnicott, the psychology, say the fourth cell, which is you don't feel complete, you don't feel aligned, you feel a sense of emptiness. So how can we bring those different angles all come together?
Absolutely. Yeah, and we could not align could be also because we are hijacked by the saboteur, in this case by the avoider. So the avoider is kind of preventing us from really being who we are underneath those fears and anxiety. And so let's explore which one should we look at first, Aries?
About the personality traits.
Yeah, what do you think?
Okay,
is it a good time now?
Thinking, well, you know, based on the four quadrant, the DISC, I thought we start with the D first. So the D is the word that stands for dominance, or some people say depends on the color. Some people label it as red. I know, Lucie, you label it in animals. What's the animal?
Oh yes, we label it as the eagle.
Oh wow! When you say the word eagle, what come to my mind is the word power and strength.
Yep.
Okay. So the dominance is actually a person in this quadrant place a lot of emphasis on accomplished result and this big picture. So generally they are confident and can be sometimes blunt, outspoken, or maybe even demanding. So that is the D. And I'm just thinking, with kind of such personality traits, it doesn't kind of sync with avoider, because avoider seems to be what is the word for avoider? Like avoider seems to be such a pleasant person.
Yeah.
Like they don't want conflict. They just want to focus on a good thing, the nice thing. So it doesn't seem that the two kind of go together.
Yeah, they also tend to say yes just to avoid the conflict. So they are with the dominant person, they maybe are focused on getting the tasks done, getting it done. So maybe they are not procrastinating or difficult tasks, but I wonder if they avoid conflicts with people and procrastinating on the conversations, maybe with an employee who is having some, accountability problems. If that would be an avoider getting in a way and actually harming not just the relationship, but also the performance.
Yeah, I'm just thinking through a little bit more on the avoider concept. And I just, if you let we go back a little bit, right? Avoider, remember the 9 square, we talk about motivation and the star.
Oh, yeah.
What the motivation is, they want to be independent, but the star, that means the behavior they're exhibiting is about avoidance.
Yeah.
And there was this characteristic about avoiders saying resist other through passive aggressive means rather than directly.
Yep. Ouch.
That means it's not a direct avoidance. And it says a lot about procrastinating on unpleasant tasks. So what I'm wondering is, it's more about task focus. It's like, I'm sorry, what I mean task focus? It's like the dominant is a very task focused person. And I know you bring out a very interesting concept that can avoider also be a very dominance, as in like the eager. But whenever you think of eager, it's like they get things done, just go.
Yes.
Oh, I'm just trying to see the intellect, but you're saying that, yeah, they could get tasks done, but they could avoid the relationship.
Yeah, or dealing with like unpleasant or difficult conversations with people on their team. So they, instead of saying directly somebody, and let's talk about, you know, something happened, we need to have a conversation, they might use maybe passive aggressive remarks or sarcasm.
Yeah.
Right.
In the word here was very good. Avoiding difficult and unpleasant tasks and conflict. Tasks are things that you need to get done, which the D is super good. That big pictures, they are very driven to get it done. But conflict is people, right? People centric. So avoider have both tasks and people. They avoid. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's go. Anything else you want to talk about the avoider before we jump in to talk about the next personality traits?
Let's see. So what would be ways for somebody, let's say, who has a dominant eagle personality? So what maybe before we jump there, like what are the strengths of the D personality, as you've already mentioned? So what are the strengths of the avoider there? Because the saboteurs actually take our natural strength that we are good at, and they abuse it and misuse it. So what is the strength of the avoider? What would you say, Aries?
Strength of an avoider. I think avoiders are generally very people centric. They kind of don't want to hurt your feeling. So they rather be like, oh, I'm very mindful. If I do this, the person might get hurt. So they don't want to go there. It's all about the other person. They want to give way to somebody else rather than focusing on themselves. Yeah. It's about sensitivity to other people. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of like seeking harmony almost, and like and being kind of easygoing. And it could be also positive, have like positive, keeping everything happy. Let's not talk about the negative in a way when it's hijacked by the saboteur. What would be one thing we could share with people, how to maybe catch themselves, what to do next? Would there be a time now? What do you think?
Yeah, we can. I mean, I'm just thinking that if we dive down to this dominance and this avoider, that means that they avoid conflicts. So I mean that as a D, the characteristic is about driven, about getting things done. And if you are driven to get things done and you ignore the people dealing with the things, I think the question is, are you really getting the thing done? So
very good point, especially on teams, because what are the consequences of when we don't have the difficult conversations? Things don't get resolved.
So you kind of dominance and push through. Okay, this must get done. Let's all get it done. This is the big picture. You understand? Do. That's it.
Yeah.
But people were maybe having resentment because you're not willing to talk about that, why people are hurt. Maybe some people are not getting along well. Some people felt things are not fair, but you're not addressing the underlying, below the iceberg.
Exactly.
So stir up,
especially not directly. So it could also lead like a sarcastic boss that doesn't actually have the kind conversation with empathy, but just uses sarcasm kind of to indirectly point out somebody's errors and mistakes. So it could create also like a toxic culture, which is like hey, maybe there is an avoider in play that's creating that toxic environment.
Yeah, I think before we come to the what they can do, I think we should have a quick round going through the rest.
Sounds good.
Because I feel that there was some relation there, right?
So like the
next one we're going to talk about is the I. I is it's very different from the D. Wow, they do have similarity. The difference is that I is a person that plays a lot of emphasis on the influencing, the persuading. So they tend to be very optimistic, very open, very trusting, full of energy.
Ooh,
okay.
Yes.
But they have one similarity between the I and the D is they are both big picture. But the difference is the D is focused, let's get the job done. I is like, oh, it's okay. Let's talk about the people. Oh, how are you feeling? Oh, how have you been? Oh,
let's have fun.
I think so. You know the difference now.
Yeah. I want to add the bird there. So in the bird methodology, it's the parrot with all the colors, having fun, talking a lot,
Yeah.
sharing
So,
stories.
I mean, one of my clients told me the color was yellow. So it's all about being very optimistic about things. Everything is okay. So in other words, they're not seeing the problem. Everything is okay. There's no problem at all.
We don't need to deal with that. Let's stay positive.
Yeah.
Let's not ruin the mood
the task
here.
is so unpleasant. Let's not talk about it. Let's talk something.
Let's just focus on something fun. What fun can we do?
Okay. So I think that's quite obvious, huh? So I'm speeding up a little bit. We're 15 minutes in. I want to talk a little bit more high level on each of the personality traits and then go back to the avoider. Then the third one we know is called the S. The S, or they call it steadiness. Some people label it as green, depend on what is the color. Some people label different, right? So this
with the birds
is about cooperation, sincerity, loyalty, being dependable. So they tend to be very calm, very deliberate in conversation, don't like to be rushed.
It's the dove in the birds. So be
no,
gentle with them.
Very different from the I. Okay? But I and S also share traits. They are both very people-centric. I is more, let's talk about it. You know, I'm your good friend. How I'm doing. But S is like, let's calm down. And it's really about cooperation and sincerity and being dependable. And somebody else use the word S is being supportive. When they're being they're so loyal, so dependable, so supportive, do you think they will want to get anything unpleasant done when it's a task, when it's a conflict, whether it's people or not people, when it's unpleasant?
Yeah, they might have the avoider come help. Tell them stay more positive.
I don't know. I have a feeling this one probably is the strongest avoider because their main trait is about being cooperative, being supportive. If I confront you, what have you done? Doesn't sound like cooperative. Doesn't sound that I'm being supportive. It's like, no.
True.
Yeah. They're very kind and very thoughtful. Okay, so the S angel.
I have something. They might avoid saying no to people. They might. It could be together with another saboteur that we will focus on another time.
Yeah, we'll see a lot of that. I think in everyone we'll see some of the traits, but some kind come up stronger than the other one.
Yeah.
And the last one is C, which is called consciousness. This one is a person who emphasize on quality, accuracy, expertise, competency. So they want everything in detail and they just need to be perfect. No getting it wrong. So when I say perfect, I know both of us have thought of another saboteur.
Oh yeah.
But, okay. So so I mean, out of the four, as we go through the characteristic, right? I think for me, the stronger one that's coming out as an avoider, there is an S and the I, because anything unpleasant, the I is like, no, let's not talk about it. Let's talk about what a good thing. Because they're very people concentrated. These I would definitely need to get things done. Doing pleasant or unpleasant, let's drive it through. So they do, but they just ignore. There's this thing called conflict.
Yeah, they could avoid conflict with people.
Yeah.
And so the C's, I feel, in the birds methodology, it's the owl. And they are very, very kind of focused on the details. And as you've mentioned, like on the perfection. So they might avoid even tasks that they are not confident that they don't have enough information. They are not confident that they wouldn't do it perfectly. So just they don't want to do it at all. So they could procrastinate or avoid some tasks that they don't feel they have control over the perfection. They
need a lot of details. If they don't have details,
they're like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, they basically can't react. I work with some bakery, and one of the manager was really a high C. And basically, when the big boss the owner come to him and say they want to do this, and then he would just look at him. not even avoiding, just look at him. It's like, basically, it's like you didn't give me enough information. So whatever you say, he just look at him, that's it. And then the owner of the bakery will say, you know, I just need him to have some response. At least I know he hear what I'm saying,
Yes.
right? He doesn't have to agree. He needs more information,
He's
fine. But don't
self-avoidant
just look
there.
at me as if like I'm speaking to the wall. I was like, okay. And after we did the D thing, and then he's like, now I understand. My boss is different from me. My boss is an I, and then with D, I need to tell him, acknowledge him.
Yeah.
Like,
That's the magic when we are self-aware, which is part of the emotional intelligence, and we are aware of also the others and how they are and what works for them. Then we can actually avoid conflict in a healthy ways. We can manage conflict and actually resolve conflicts.
yeah, as we have gone through the 4 of them, I really want to go back to the avoider, looking at the avoider again. And we look at the avoider again. Just now we talk about where the strength of the avoider come from and what can we help whichever personality traits they are in. And before we go there, I just want to say, very rare that we are a solid D, a solid I, solid S, or solid C. Okay,
Yeah.
very, very rare. Most of us have a mixture of too high and too low. That means you are 2, and then some people can have a little bit of everything where they can move around. That's also not so common. But most of us have a mixture, like a coffee. You can add with milk. You can add sugar. You can have more milk, less milk, 1 sugar, 3 sugar.
Nice.
So that personality traits, even that you are a D is how intense. You're an I, how intense. You're an S, how intense. You're C, intense. Or you could be a DC. You could be an IS. You could be an ID. You could be a DI. There's lots of combination. And those different combination will also means that how you avoid and how much avoider you are.
Yeah. I'm thinking also with the saboteurs, they're also kind of in combinations often.
Yeah, I think I'll stop the share. Let's come back to us here. Yeah, so we were talking about how can they recognize and help themselves, whatever traits you are. Your preference as in whether you are task or your people, whether you're extrovert, you're introvert. We all have a little bit of that, either a little bit or a lot, the intensity of the avoider. And how do we recognize it? And then when we recognize it, what do we do about it?
Yeah, kind of in a way, as you've mentioned at the beginning, authenticity, like how to come back to your authentic self that has the strength without the strength being turned into a weakness in a way.
So back to avoider, when you're mentioning what is the strength, right? So avoider itself is like what they say, all the saboteur come from that strength. So avoider is really about sensitive to other people feelings, which is why they don't want to they avoid unpleasant tasks and conflict, because it's really not a nice thing to do. So I don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's also like seeking balance and peace. Like I just want to have quiet, I want a peace. I don't want conflict. So they don't want to deal with either. Maybe they're sensitive, but maybe some people, especially let's say dominant, they don't want to deal with those emotions of other people. They don't want to deal with the drama. Leave me alone. I need to focus on getting things done.
Yeah. So when we come back to authenticity, I think authenticity being true to yourself. So we're not saying when you're avoider, you don't say, oh, it's bad, I don't want to do it because I'm not getting things done. But recognize that beneath that, you are actually a sensitive and good person, that you want to have peace, you are being thoughtful, you're being considerate, you're being full of empathy for people. But the thing is, when you go too far to the extreme, then you just can't get anything done.
Yeah, and there's also this positivity. Like they just want to have peace and be positive. So I think that's also a strength, kind of the easygoingness of them. They don't want a conflict.
Yeah, sound like the S, right? Being cooperative, supportive, and it's all about being nice. So which is why when I think about the S, the duck, when they are talking about the traits, is so close to like avoider. The match is very close.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you're coming to people, what can they do? And you recognize that that is your strength. Is how much are you leaning into the strength? When you lean over too much, what is it costing you? I think it's the recognition of what is costing you. And I gave a definition to authenticity. It's about you need to have self-awareness and through introspections and then being true to yourself. But another component is courage. Because
I like that.
I think our world, our society always have a way of how we should be. And if we don't have the courage to be who we are, we just follow whatever we need to do. So I think being that avoider is like, you don't want to hurt somebody feeling, you don't want to get there. It's really quite a nasty thing to do. So it's about really able to have that courage to step in and say that, well, I'm full of empathy for you, but my empathy is not only for you, but empathy is actually for you as well as for me. I mean, I'm being cooperative, but cooperative doesn't mean that you can just do whatever you want and walk over me.
Yeah. So that sounds like the S person might say, they might have the highest levels probably of empathy, where the D person, the dominant, the ego, they might not have as much empathy, perhaps, unless they also have the dove in them.
Yeah.
So they might just say, just let's not have drama. Don't bring all these emotions. Let's just stay positive here. I
was just thinking, because you asked the question earlier, what could the D do?
Yeah.
I think the D is probably tapping more into their empathy and recognize that, yeah, I did get my task done. This is the iceberg. I get my task done. But then the challenge will come again. The challenge will come again, and the challenge will come again. So if I ignore this part, which is the people, the emotion, I get my task done. I get my task done. I get my task done. But the productivity,
so it's out of balance in a way.
Yeah, the productivity and efficiency, you will see it going down.
And
maybe
trust with people
won't stay, people will go, because you're
exactly.
You're just ignoring the human part of it.
Yeah.
Because we're all human. There is a human component. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think it's about acknowledging that that he's not Superman, maybe. But I find that they always think they're Superman.
They can fly very high, the egos.
Yeah.
They're powerful.
There's a saying, right? If you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to do big things, you do together.
Yeah.
So if you want to bring people along with you, you have to kind of slow down and know what's happening. And that means you relate to them, not just relate to, you do this and you do this and let's get this done. It doesn't work like that. I think it's about acknowledging that there is a human side to everything that we are dealing. That's what I'm seeing the D. Yeah.
I like that, you bring a good aspect of it. So the D and C's, they kind of are focused on the tasks, on getting it done. And they kind of avoid dealing with the people aspect. Yeah. That's kind of the unpleasant part. So kind of to balance it out, because in successful business, we need to be aware and balance both the tasks and what needs to get done and the people aspect. So kind of that part of D's and C's, when they're hijacked by the avoider, having the courage to actually tap into and start doing that task and ask for support. Let's say somebody on the team that could support them. That is their strength, is maybe empathy and dealing with unpleasant situations. It could be a coach, friend, a trusted mentor.
Yeah. So the D and the C is really about the strength is in the task, and they kind of avoiding the people. So it's about, I think the C is really not about avoiding tasks. It's like, I need all the details. No details, I can't move.
Yes.
I think it's not about, I don't see really much of avoidance, but I see about getting stuck. No detail. How do you move?
So there could be a courage to move even when you don't have 100% of the data. To get back to the authenticity.
But it's quite tough for people who are very detail orientated, right? They need all the things, right? I don't have it. It's like, how do I move? Yeah.
Yes, I heard from one of my clients the 40-70 rule. And she said, you know, when you have 40% of the information, that's already enough to get you moving. When you have 70, sometimes that's even too much, because the 30 you even learn as you're doing it.
You know why I was laughing? Because if you tell this to a C, they will freak out.
Just 40, oh my God. So
70,
they can
they're
go
like,
with
not good
70.
enough.
Do you have at least
No,
70?
not good enough. They'll shake their head and say, no, you can't do that.
You have to have 100. That's the avoider in them.
Okay, we are at half an hour into our conversation. I just want to quick round up. For the I is similar to the S. They are very people orientated. They care about people. So for the I, they will also find it very difficult to have unpleasant tasks. They just want to talk about people. I care about you.
Yeah.
So
let's be happy together. Let's not discuss all the horrible stuff. We can postpone the project if that makes so much trouble.
One of the key factors is about acknowledging that that is a weakness, and it's about the courage to face the part that you're avoiding, whether is it the task or is it the people that's a conflict.
Absolutely. I think that's the first step in doing anything, just to become aware, because if we are not even aware of what we are doing, there's no way we can change. So just pausing and reflecting today.
Yeah. And acknowledge that. And yeah, anything else you want to mention on avoider with the personality traits into the authenticity before we wrap up today's session?
I don't know if that would be a time for us to invite them to actually pause and reflect and notice, is this particular saboteur avoider messing with you in some area of your life? It could be at work, at home. It could be when dealing with some negative tasks to get it done, or with some conversations. And notice, is avoider messing with you, and how? Anything you would like to add to that one?
That's a good one. I mean, sharing so much is like, what is that takeaway that you have? You know, you can always put down in the chat on comments or reply, whatever. What is that takeaway? What have you noticed about your own avoider? Are you avoiding tasks? Are you avoiding people? As in conflicts? When we describe the 4 star personality star, which one do you see yourself more of that of you? And do you see yourself moving around depending on situation, family versus work? And I like what Lucie say is notice and then pause. And a lot of time is that acknowledging it. It's only when we acknowledge them, we can say, yeah, then what's next that I can do?
Exactly.
Is it serving me? If it's not, what do I want to do?
Yeah. And I wanted to add one more aspect of the emotional aspect of the avoider. What kind of impact it has on our emotions? Often it's anxiety, because we do avoid it, but it's still there. It's not going away. The conflict, the unpleasant filing the taxes is not gonna go away, no matter how long we delay it. It can get worse, actually. So the anxiety, it could be a conflict with actually others through the sarcasm, through the passive aggressive kind of conversations.
Yeah, that's a very good one. The anxiety, right? We're taught by when we avoid that task or we avoid that conflict, we don't get it. We just kind of bury our head in there. Bury our head inside the ground, the soil. Doesn't mean that the problem are no longer there. And what happened is actually create anxiety rather than solving.
So actually, it's not really helping us to be happy. It's just helping us to actually be more anxious oftentimes. And
eventually we still have to
deal with that when it gets even worse.
Deal with the task. And yeah, we will wrap up for today. We think we're nearly 35 minutes in the call, and we will see you guys in our next section. And with the next one, we're going to talk about controller.
Which controller? Oh,
and then we will talk about
look at that one. Looking forward to it. See you next time.
You guys then. Bye.
Bye.